Oh, it's a big one, Chris. 5 extra large pepperoni.
Who's it for?
Do you really need to know?
Oh, it's her.
Who?
She always orders thin crust.
Who?
Do you really need to know?
Yeah?
No, you don't.
I think I need to know.
Looking to build a chatbot for your website? On Fiverr, you can find AI experts who will quickly and easily develop one to suit your needs. Doesn't matter if you're an eyewear brand, a real estate agency, or even a yoga studio. Elevate any kind of business with AI experts and build your chatbot. Elevate any kind of business with AI experts and build your
Hi, my name is Adam. I'm from Toronto, and the next Prime Minister of Canada should have integrity.
I'm Anjali Singh here in Toronto, and I want my Prime Minister to be kind, but also welcoming to new ideas and new thoughts from citizens.
My name is Louise. The next Prime Minister of Canada, for me, needs to be intelligent, strategic, firm.
I think the next Prime Minister should be somebody who is a really good listener.
That's just some Canadians talking about what they want to see in the next Prime Minister. Could be a Liberal, could be a Conservative. Just ask them that question. But the person who wins here tonight will be Prime Minister designate and sworn in as Prime Minister in the coming days. The path to winning the Liberal Party leadership isn't quite as straightforward as just getting the most votes across the country. It's because the party uses a point system to elect a leader. So tonight is actually a contest for points rather than total votes. It's a little complicated, so we broke it down. Here's how it works. Every riding in the country is worth 100 points. Candidates are assigned points depending on what percentage of the vote they get in each riding. 100 points per riding, 343 ridings. That means a total of 34,300 points are up for grabs. To win, a candidate has to win the majority of the total points, or 17,151. That is the number to watch. So how does the voting work? Party members use a ranked ballot. They can choose up to 4 people for leader, ranking their preferences from first to last. Voters cast their ballots online or by phone, and they'll be counted in rounds. If in the first round no candidate gets a majority of points, the person with the fewest is eliminated. Ballots get counted again. Points get reassigned based on members' second choice. That process continues until a winner emerges, when one candidate hits that magic number, 17,151 points. So that's how it works. We know that more than 151,000 Liberals have managed to vote. Voting ended at 3 p.m. today. There were some problems in validating people's identity that caused some consternation for some people, but I got lots of emails from Liberals about this, but the party says that they did their best to help people through the process. So we'll see how those points break down in about an hour and a half or so. Eric Grenier is joining us now. He's the author and publisher of the Writ.ca. He also looks after the CBC's poll tracker, which we appreciate very much. Eric, glad you could be here.
Happy to be here.
So let's start with what we should watch out for today, because things have moved pretty quickly in the polls. We'll see whether they hold, of course, but there has been a lot of movement.
Yeah, there's been a tremendous amount of movement since Justin Trudeau's resignation. At that point, the Liberals were behind by about 25 points behind the Conservatives. The last set of numbers that we've seen going into today in the leadership vote had the Conservatives still leading. In our poll tracker, we still had the Conservatives ahead by about 9 points. But that is a tremendously tighter margin than what we've seen over the last few weeks. And those are only polls that take into account Justin Trudeau as leader of the Liberal Party, or polls that don't mention a leadership candidate. So in polls that we've seen where Mark Carney has been mentioned, the gap would be far, far, far tighter between the Conservatives and the Liberals.
Okay, so that tightening there, how can we explain it? Is it just the departure of Justin Trudeau, or what have you seen?
I think there's been a number of factors. Justin Trudeau resigning has definitely been one of them. We've even seen Trudeau's own personal numbers increase and improve over the last few weeks. I think we've seen a big drop in support for the New Democrats, who are look to be in a real trouble now that the Liberals have moved forward and taken a big chunk of their vote. We've seen the Conservative numbers come down a little bit, though they are still polling significantly higher than what they got in the last election. And then the Bloc Québécois in Quebec has also taken a bit of a hit because of the rise in Liberal support.
And I think we can, maybe we have this graphic, hopefully we do. Can you give us a sense of what that would mean for seat count at this stage? Obviously, an election campaign matters. That's when numbers move. But what would it tell us in terms of who would form government?
Right now, it would be really a razor's edge for the Conservatives. Right now, our seat projections have the Conservatives winning 171 seats. You need 172 for a majority government. So the Conservatives have dropped just below that majority threshold. The Liberals are now sitting on around 125 seats, and it was only a few months ago that the Liberals and Bloc Québécois were really fighting for that second spot in the seat count. The NDP would drop quite a bit, Bloc would hold most of what they've had, but the shift between the Conservatives and the Liberals has just been tremendous, because we've seen that the Conservatives at one point were projected to win over 230 seats. So this is a big change over the last few years.
Have you ever, we talk about this in the newsroom all the time, have you ever seen this kind of volatile movement this quickly?
You really rarely see it outside of the Writ period. You do have to go back to maybe 1993, 1984 with Kim Campbell and John Turner coming in. Of course, it didn't end up very well for either of them.
No.
But we usually don't see this kind of movement, and to see it happen after the trends have been so steady and so bad for Trudeau and the Liberals for so long, to see that reversal happen that quickly, really not the kind of thing we usually see.
I'll bring in David just for a comment on how much you think this has been about Donald Trump versus Justin Trudeau leaving.
Well, look, I think it's kind of impossible to separate the two, right? Because it is very clear there was a fatigue out there with Justin Trudeau, 25, 26, 27 points behind in a lot of the polls. But, you look at those seat projections, and those will change when there's a new leader. A month ago, the Liberals were talking about 25 seats. Now you're looking at 125. They were at extinction level. Now they're at minimum opposition level, and the potential to be competitive, maybe to win the whole thing. But it's going to be curious, and underneath all the numbers, one of the things we have seen, Rosie, is a lot of incumbent MPs, even with the change, have said they're not running.
Yeah.
So incumbency matters in a tight election and in a change election, just experience, connection, and organization on the ground. So you wonder about the softness there in the Liberal numbers, and you wonder if a majority is suddenly out of the question for the Conservatives if this trend line continues. Do they have anyone they can work with in a minority parliament, because the tendency has not been to reach across party lines and build coalitions. It's been a little bit more brass knuckles.
They don't love that word, coalitions in the Conservative
No, they
Party.
sure don't.
No, okay. Thanks, guys. I'm going to keep you right there, and I'm going to bring in our friends, our at-issue friends, Chantal Olivier, Andrew Coyne, Althea Raj. So nice of us all to be together. Just took a leadership convention to get you all with me. What are you watching for?
The results, obviously, but if you have talked to people in this room, and I have, you find a lot of Carney support and a very upbeat mood. And I was thinking back, I was there for the Kim Campbell and the John Turner things. And yes, they did get that kind of a boost. I would argue Kim Campbell faced a different proposition in the sense that the pillars of the party, Quebec and Alberta, were going to the Bloc and to the Reform Party.
Right.
That's a structural issue. Right. The Liberals do not have to face that. And I thought that it was really polite to say that the Conservatives had not expended a lot of efforts in reaching to their partners on the opposition aisle, because I would argue that Pierre Poilievre would have a very hard time running a minority government with support from the Bloc or the NDP.
Yep.
And that's a clear contrast with Stephen Harper. Stephen Harper had built bridges to Gilles Duceppe of the Bloc Québécois, to Jack Layton. Yeah. And so there was this sense that they could move forward. But I think today is interesting, but what we're all watching for is what will happen after today, because things will happen quickly,
Very quickly,
and they will be Trump-driven.
Yeah.
I also would say about those polls that we looked at, I think part of the boost the Liberals have does come from Justin Trudeau and his last 2 months, and the laser-like focus on Trump and this issue. I think there are people who woke up this morning and thought, maybe I'd feel safer with Justin Trudeau than with someone new.
I know.
You wouldn't have believed that 2 months ago.
No, I've had emails from Canadians saying that, and I don't respond to them, but he's not changing his mind. He's he's happily going off into the sunset, is what we're told. Andrew, what are you watching for?
And part of his revived popularity is the fact that he is going.
Of course. Everyone loves you when you're leaving.
You always look really good at that.
Yeah.
I think everything is in the shadow of Donald Trump and the crisis that we're in right now, including this convention. And to me, the most interesting thing is going to be the speeches. Assuming, as we must, that Mark Carney is most likely to be the winner, this will be the moment when he has to transition, not just from being a Liberal leadership candidate in a pretty low-key race, but from being a technocrat to being a politician and to being a leader. And people haven't been paying a lot of attention to political conventions in recent times the way they used to. Maybe they'll be paying a little more attention to this one, because I think people are really looking around for leadership at this moment. And this campaign and this election is
quickly
change
things
pretty
change.
quickly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, but going to see Mark Carney is not like going to a rock concert. If we decided elections on that basis, Stephen Harper would never have been prime minister.
Yeah.
The issue is, I think the next election is more like a job interview that voters are doing. What Andrew was saying, who do you want to who are you going to hire to get us through the next 4 years?
Yeah.
That's a very different proposition from 2015 or even the two elections that followed.
Yeah.
And I don't think that rock concert qualities will carry the day. I'm sure Jean Chrétien could deliver a great stump speech, but it never really worked in Quebec.
No, it
It's
didn't.
home province. So if Trump's speeches were all that matters, what's the point of having serious people go in politics?
I think it's part of it, though. So, yes, Mark Carney can go and say, look, I've been in crisis situations before. I'm cool under fire. I don't panic. All those are good things. And that's a case he can make to the public. But he's also got to be able to show the public he's got fire in the belly for the country, that he's not just, not just back here because it's the next career step, which will be the thing that will be thrown against him in the same way it was Ignatia. He's got to show that he's here for us. He's able to call us and to do these difficult things.
You need to
and speech
emote.
making is part of it.
Yeah. You need to be able to connect with Canadians on a different level, particularly right now.
Well, the thing is, this is the most visible platform he will have until the election call. And the Conservatives are going to spend millions of dollars trying to frame him. And so he needs to frame himself in this speech. And so in some ways, it's more than any other political speech that we've had because the runway is so short. If, as we all expect, there'll be an election call within a week, 10 days. So it's a really valuable opportunity for him. And if he fails to meet the moment, that could be significant.
But he does have to win still. There is no chance that someone else here has pulled it off by coming up the middle. There were strong, people ran strong
There's
campaigns.
always a chance.
Yeah.
But when you ask party operatives and people in the camps, how many of their ID'd supporters voted and how many registered Liberals voted, the Carney camp is quite confident.
It's hard to imagine that there's such a gap in fundraising, such a gap in cabinet and caucus support, which does matter in constituencies. When your MP is rooting for someone, it has some influence. It's a very short race. So there wasn't a lot of time to sign up new people. So the people who are voting, for the most part, are Liberals who stuck it out, who remain members when things were going badly. What they want is a winner. This is a power party. It's not an ideological.
It's not a protest party.
They play to win. The polls have all showed them who is the winner. So we will have a lot of explaining to do if the result is different.
It's suddenly, or maybe new jobs to get. Last word to you, Andrew.
I'll blame the pollsters. I think there'll be a modicum of interest in who comes second. Because that will show also sort of where the party's at in terms of people who are a bit more ideological, perhaps, and are voting with their hearts rather than their heads. And that'll be interesting to see as well.
Okay, I'll let you guys go and talk to people, and then we'll come back. Thank you. Nice to see you all in person. I'm going to go back to David and Eric in just a minute, but first I'm going to bring in Ashley Burke, who's on the floor with a guest. Ashley.
Hi, Rosie. It's getting a lot busier down here as people pack into this room ahead of the speeches starting. And I'm speaking now to Pam Demoff. She is an MP, one of three who have endorsed Karina Gold. She's speaking to supporters too right now.
that work to make sure that our allies understand and that the Trump administration understands as well.
And why are you supporting Mark Carney versus Chrystia Freeland, someone who was really battle tested against Donald Trump from that first time he was president?
Well, listen, it was a hard choice. I think that all candidates that are running here are really good candidates, and I think that Liberal supporters have a tough decision to make. I decided that I would be supporting Mark Carney for 3 reasons. First, people want change, and that's something that as Liberals we need to reckon. Second, people want to make sure that they have somebody that can negotiate with President Trump and somebody that understands also the impacts of the economic threats we're dealing with. And Mark has been able to do so because of what he did during the 2008 recession and also Brexit in England. And fundamentally also third reason is it's really because he's able also to beat Pierre Poilievre. And we need that for Canadian jobs, and we need that for Canadian way of life. And that's why he has my full support.
Thanks very much, Minister. Thanks for joining us. That was Minister Mélanie Joly, a supporter of Mark Carney in this leadership race.
Rafi Boudjikanian, thank you. We'll come back to you on the floor. I'll get quick thoughts from my friends Eric and David here before I take another little commercial, and then we will stop doing that. It is kind of remarkable to be in this room with people talking now with excitement about the possibility of not tanking and losing, most of their seats. I mean, that is quite, like, whether it holds or not, I don't know, but just the fact that they feel optimistic about the future is a really big shift for Liberals.
It is a huge shift.
Yeah.
It was when this race began, it was really more about who could save the furniture for the Liberal Party.
For sure.
Now it's who could actually maybe extend this term in office. And that is just something that we really wouldn't have thought was something that was even on the table a few months ago. And it is a remarkable shift. And it does suggest, though, that the numbers that we've seen moving in the polls for the last few weeks, especially the ones that mentioned Mark Carney as the leader of the Liberal Party, it is potentially a very soft support.
Yeah.
It's very new.
Yeah.
It's come from people who have had their vote parked with other parties for a while. So while Liberals have some reason to be optimistic and excited that they might actually be able to win the next election, it could also be a balloon that gets popped pretty quick.
Especially because they don't know Mark Carney very well. He did 3 national interviews. He did the debates. He did scrums and stuff, but they don't know him intimately yet, and that may also be a problem. And it's why the Conservatives are spending so much money trying to frame him too.
Yeah, look, the Liberals may have moved beyond simply trying to save the furniture, but they're not quite at the point of measuring the drapes, right? In terms of staying and
I've heard you
holding
use that
on
line
to
before.
government. But the challenge is that issue was talking a minute ago, Rosie, about his speech tonight, should Mark Carney win as expected, and his ability to meet the moment. Well, what is the moment? It changes every 12 to 24 hours right now based on whatever the President of the United States does. So do people want a big rah-rah, fire and brimstone speech, or do they want a message of seriousness and confident reassurance, right? Because in 2015, when Justin Trudeau won, there was this desire for change and positive change, and the message he had of government as a force for good in your life. Throughout the pandemic and then the cost challenges coming out of that, people responded to the more angry and frustrated message of Pierre Poilievre. Are they still looking for angry? They're looking for steady. What do they want now? And what will they want in 6 weeks? Because Donald Trump changes things every 48 hours. And there's a lot of 48 hours between now and election day.
Yeah, and that's why an election might be something that Canadians need. Thank you both so much. We will be right back here from the nation's capital with CBC's coverage of Liberal Leadership 2025. Stay there.
I wanted to tell you how pleased I was and how grateful I was that my three boys were able to see that the line of business that their dad was in had some importance for this country.
That was Pierre Trudeau in 1984, speaking to Liberals on the eve of electing John Turner as Prime Minister with his sons, and that fellow right there looking on. 31 years later, in 2015, Justin Trudeau, of course, became the son of a former Prime Minister, became Prime Minister himself, and he finds himself now in that similar extraordinary moment of leaving politics at a critical time in this country. We'll talk about that moment in a moment, but we thought we'd take a moment here as well to look back on how Justin Trudeau made his mark on Canada as leader of this country. Justin Trudeau became Liberal leader in a landslide victory. A leader virtually untested, but with a last name that brought him some political clout.
With me as your leader, you will get a clear, positive vision for Canada.
He rebuilt the party by increasing supporters and fundraising dollars. And after 10 years of Conservative rule, brought the party back from third-party status to a majority government.
It's time for a change in this country, my friends, a real change.
He became the second youngest Prime Minister in history, and he moved quickly to leave a mark on the country over his 9+ years in government, introducing the Canada Child Benefit to fight child poverty, legalizing marijuana, making progress in reducing greenhouse gas emissions, advancing reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, creating a national childcare program, and with help from the NDP, a national dental program, and the beginning of pharmacare.
On a personal level, I've made sure that every single day in this office, I put Canadians first, that I have people's backs. Even in the very last days of this government, we will not let Canadians down today and long into the future.
It was an aggressive, progressive agenda, but it was also marked by mistakes and broken promises. A consumer carbon tax that became a political cudgel, budgets with ever-changing goalposts, electoral reform quickly abandoned, and multiple ethics breaches by the Prime Minister himself. Trudeau's time in office was marked by two historic events.
Enough is enough. Go home and stay home.
A global pandemic that shut down the country. The government moved quickly to financially support Canadians. But COVID-19 and vaccine mandates also caused societal divisions and a convoy protest. Freedom! Much of the anger directed at the Prime Minister. Ultimately, it would be Donald Trump that proved to be Trudeau's greatest threat and opponent. From the brinksmanship of the free trade negotiations in 2018,
25% on Canada,
to the full-out trade war launched by the President in his final days as Prime Minister.
What he wants is to see a total collapse of the Canadian economy, because that'll make it easier to annex us.
Trudeau's legacy will be judged over time, and some will disagree with it entirely. But he did change Canada. Whether those changes will be undone or lasting is to be determined. Just to give you a sense here of the moment, of course, that Justin Trudeau, for 9+ years as Prime Minister, and some of the things that he did. As we think back on his legacy, that is also part of what Liberals are doing tonight. And of course, the Prime Minister will give a speech as well to say some of those things and reflect on that as well. Bring back our panel now, Vandana, Cameron, and Fred. Good to see all of you. Joining us on this side, David Cochran and Aaron Wary, CBC senior writer, but he also wrote a book about Justin Trudeau and power, Through Promise and Peril. So I'm going to bring you in here on the legacy question, and whether you think it's hard to evaluate legacy while someone's still Prime Minister, but it is important to do some of that, and whether you think there is something lasting here from Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, and it's particularly hard at this moment when Donald Trump is posing such a threat to Canada and the country, and it's hard to know exactly where anything is going to be a year from now. I do think, though, that that Trump is sort of the start of his legacy.
Trump won, you mean?
Trump won, and to a certain extent now Trump too. That he has been, in a way, a kind of wartime prime minister, given the crises he's had to face. You know, not only the first Trump renegotiation, but then COVID. Now this sort of second moment that has allowed him. You know, if you go back 2 months, it did not look like this prime minister was going to go out with his head held high, and it now sort of seems like he is going to come out with a fair bit of goodwill. So I think those kind of really define the last 9 years in a certain way. But I think beyond that, you're looking at things like climate, you're looking at things like reconciliation, the sort of expansion of the social safety net. You know, part of this campaign was built on, the leadership campaign was built on candidates saying, well, I'm not going to do the carbon tax, I'm not going to do the capital gains tax. But I think, and you know, and looking even further ahead, Pierre Poilievre may rewrite all sorts of things. But I think the bar has been raised on a few issues, particularly climate change, particularly reconciliation. That even if the methods change or the mix of policies changes, I'm not sure that we're going to go backwards that far in terms of where we're at now, sort of nationally, when it comes to policies like that.
Like public expectations. Yeah, David?
Well, I'll be curious to see on that, because I think this election will determine, maybe not going backwards, but whether you keep making progress on some of these things. Everybody's moved off the consumer carbon price. That, as an instrument to deal with climate change, is dead, and in fact became a burden politically for the party as people looked at their bread and butter basic cost of living issues and says, I can't afford this stuff. This is my priority, and those things get pushed away. Reconciliation, while important, hasn't been an issue in this leadership race, isn't really an issue in the day-to-day political conversations, and it's a question as to how much actual political credit at the ballot box it actually got this government, and whether someone will make it a core issue going forward. So I think there's a lot of question marks on some of those signature initiatives, and a lot of the programs. They can be undone by a prime minister who wants to balance the budget, or certainly reduce the pattern of large structural deficits. So those policy achievements are very much in the balance with the next choice Canadians make. The winning of 3 elections, his going from third to first in 2015, quite frankly, saving the Liberal Party potentially going into that election, are all very important moments in legacy, and the things that he led the country through will be a big part of the country's history when there's distance of time to look back at this period of time. But you know, Christian Freeland was his finance minister for a lot of these things, and Christian Freeland, the Liberal leadership candidate, has a very different policy set than Christian Freeland, the Liberal finance minister, right? So even there's a big shift on a lot of the core issues.
Where the official program is going to get underway very quickly, but Fred, I'd love your take on Justin Trudeau's legacy.
And I would love to get it there.
And critically, that question about whether you think anything will hold. You know, it would be hard, I think, to undo daycare now, right? Like, there is an expectation for it. You could, but it might be hard to do. So give me your thoughts.
There's 2 things. There's 2 parts of his legacy. Liberal leader, I think he will have a strong legacy as leader of this party, who brought it from 35 seats when you folks weren't there to majority government. And then he won 2 more elections. Like, he is a good campaigner. He was a good Liberal leader. I think he was a terrible prime minister, as none of you guys would be surprised.
Terrible?
To say.
Really? That's
Absolutely.
harsh. Okay.
He accumulated more debt than all other 22 prime ministers combined before him. And I know he's had some issues to deal with COVID and other, but he blew the doors off of us in terms of our fiscal capacity. I also believe under his leadership, Canada's become much more divided. He was supposed to be this uniter, this sunny ways. He was a wedge issue politician at a very aggressive rate. And the last thing is the economy and where we are now, and where Mark Carney is about to be coordinated as leader, said himself a few weeks ago, the Canadian economy is weak. We are dealing with the Trump issue because we have a weak economy here. We have issues that we need to deal with on this. We're not in a good position, and it's because of the last 9 years of this government.
I think, though, I'll let my Liberal friends push back, but I do think that there is a recognition from Mark Carney that the economy is not where it should be. Well, right? Like,
he said
that. Yeah. Okay. That's what you said. Okay.
He himself said the economy's bad. Now, he's been an economic advisor for the last 5 years, so I'm not sure where exactly it sits.
All right. Vandana, you want to jump in there?
Well, I'll say no matter who it was, as Prime Minister, we would have had a Trump problem regardless. I mean, Trump wants us for critical mineral issues, the annexation, that would have happened under any Prime Minister. I don't think it's just Justin Trudeau. I think he was a great Prime Minister. Obviously, I will have different opinions than Fred, but there are things we can learn from it. I think as a party leader, how to campaign, how to connect to members, even saying that I will be the Prime Minister, I will from the ridings, not just in Ottawa, diverse candidates, gender equality in cabinet, like these are also important things for the party base. But I think the times have changed. So some of these issues, I think Indigenous reconciliation is very important, as well as support for racialized Canadians, for women, but they may not take such a front end in the next government. Sure. It doesn't mean they won't work. I think those ministers will continue to do those jobs. Like you've seen Gary Nunn-Sundry has done a number of announcements the last few weeks. But I think the Prime Minister may not be doing that right now. I think whoever the next Prime Minister is, we focus on the economy, but it doesn't mean those issues take backseat fully, but just maybe at this moment, in terms of a public-facing thing, they'll be more just let the ministers do those.
Last word to you, Cameron.
Quickly, I think you can't just gloss over COVID and Trump and the global supply chain strains under the war in Ukraine. There's an enormous amount of crisis he's had to deal with, and that explains in large part the expenses that he's had to, lead as Prime Minister. As we look at his legacy, though, we have to think about it not just today, but how we're going to think about it in 20 or 30 years. Climate change, reconciliation, as we've talked about, a better social safety net for poorer working class people. Those are visionary things that he led on, and I think will be kindly judged in the future.
You want one more go there, Chris?
Oh, look, I think you're right. It's 20 to 30 years is when we'll be able to actually tell what has he done that is long-lasting. Has he put anything down that will remain then? Right now, I don't think so.
Well, I think on the fiscal thing, yeah, doubled the debt, right? But in large part because when you went into the pandemic, my home province of Newfoundland and Labrador, for example, the Premier wrote a letter to the Prime Minister because they couldn't borrow. They were going to go bankrupt. So they took on the debt so the province didn't have to. The cost of not doing that might have been larger than the cost of doing it, but the fiscal capacity is a big challenge.
So we can keep talking, but I just want to let people know the candidates are now going to be coming in. It's been a draw to decide who would come in first. So Frank Bayless is the first one into the room here with some of his supporters and family members. Frank Bayless is he was an interesting candidate, David. He put some things on the table that were a little bit different. Of course, he was previously an MP. I don't think he expects to win, but he certainly reminded people who he is.
Well, he did have an announcement a few days ago about having a transition team in place, so he is taking those steps. But look, what's interesting about Frank Bayless, a former MP, a very successful businessman, maybe worth more money than Mark Carney, though no one is calling for his assets. Sold a company recently for almost $2 billion. Not well known, but MPs who are supporting the other candidates say the people who know Frank Bayless like him. Often in leadership races, you get someone who is considered a bit of a long shot candidate, as I would say Frank Bayless is. They're also a bit of a wingnut candidate. I don't think Frank Bayless fits into that category. Not at all. He's come in here, he's made, some of his ideas around term limits and different things functionally don't necessarily work in the Canadian system, but he's a reasonable guy throwing out ideas that fit within the big mainstream of the living
Differently than most politicians because his experience is not in politics, primarily in the business. I think he's a very thoughtful. I know him quite well. He's a very thoughtful guy
from Montreal.
And he's come with some smart, interesting ideas. Unconventional, as you pointed out, but I think he's done a pretty good job communicating those ideas in this campaign, and we'll see where he goes next.
And I use the word wingnut not to suggest he was one, but to say that is what you often see, and he does not fit into that camp.
And there, sometimes when you run for leadership and you don't have a strong chance of winning, you do position yourself in the party for other things, cabinet positions or what have you. Certainly, you might expect him to run in the next election. Let's give him a listen.
Thank you. I'd like to start by thanking all those who have supported me throughout this race.
My friends, my incredible team, and all my supporters, I am deeply, deeply grateful. Thank you. Now, we are living in challenging times. Our economic security and our very sovereignty is under threat. But the man who challenges us does not know our history, and he does not understand our values. We are builders who stitched this country together with a railroad. We are fighters who have stood up against tyranny all around the world. Yet at the same time, we're also peacekeepers who have come to the aid of others in their time of need. Nous sommes une nation distincte.
We're a distinct nation with French throughout the country, focused on Quebec. And above all,
people who put in place a social safety net and a healthcare system to look after all of our citizens. So this is who we are. We are builders. We are fighters. We are peacekeepers. Nous sommes une nation dotée.
We're a nation with a rich cultural identity.
Compassionate people. So, we will not be intimidated by a tweet. And we will not be broken by a tariff. Nous sommes les Canadiens.
We are Canadians, and together
Notre nation.
we will build our nation.
The true North, strong and free, and we will always be. Tonight, as we choose our next leader, regardless who that is, let us go forward together into our future with confidence and optimism. Merci. Merci tout le monde. Merci, merci.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, that is Frank Baylis. He is the first candidate taking the floor. They're all going to come out like that with their groups around them or family members, and they will be given 90 seconds to make their final pitch or send a message. Chrystia Freeland, the next candidate out here with her husband, and I would say that's her father on the other side. What kind of campaign do we think Chrystia Freeland ran? Aaron, I'll start with you and then bring in David.
I mean, I think that the first challenge for Chrystia Freeland was, she had been so central to this government for so long that if the first challenge was to show that you could represent change, she was, really battling from behind on that. I think the second thing that was a strike against her in this campaign has been the caucus and cabinet endorsements. Yeah. She's the one who's been in caucus, she's the one who's been in cabinet, and yet Mark Carney has 90 MPs on his side and 28 cabinet ministers. I think she has the argument that she's been in the ring with Donald Trump. She knows how to deal with him. I think, though, that, you heard Mark Carney near the end of the campaign say things like, well, Trump the first time around is not Trump the second time around, and I think that resonates to a certain degree.
She's really leaning into this campaign song "Man-Eater" too, which it's funny, but I do know that some people are still angry with Chrystia Freeland for what happened. They actually blame her more than the Prime Minister for the way things unfolded, and I wonder if she underestimated that.
Well, she is the reason we're here today, because it was her resignation letter on December 16th. This, written shrapnel bomb that threw into the Liberal caucus that really precipitated the events that led to January 6th. She's leaned into the man-eater thing, which is interesting as a contrast with Trump. Male voters have really abandoned this party, and they need to get them back if we're going to win this election. So that is an interesting choice for the two timelines we're in, of winning the leadership and winning this. So the strategy of this campaign has puzzled me at times, because it seems to be speaking to a Liberal Party and a public that is not aware of her tenure as the finance minister and deputy prime minister of the party, which seems like an impossibly small slice of any electorate in this country.
She did put out the most detailed policy, though. She almost every day there were ideas that she was putting forward. It was clear she was trying to distinguish herself from the prime minister, but also seemed like the strategy changed multiple times through the campaign, and she just never got ahead. or never got where she needed to get.
Yeah, I think like what became her started as her masterclass and getting her point across became her biggest challenge. And I think what you see from that also, liberals don't like attacking liberals. While most liberals at that point wanted the PM to move on, they didn't want to do it this way. I think that's
let's listen into Mr. Freeland.
Good evening. Bonsoir. I want to start by thanking the amazing people who have volunteered on my campaign and donated to my campaign. Merci beaucoup. Je vous apprécie.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for all your help.
Et je sais que nous
And I know
tous ce soir
that we all
remercier le Premier ministre
want to thank the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau this evening as well.
There is a remarkable wave of patriotism across our country. Canadians are ready to stand for Canada. Canadians are ready to fight for Canada. And I know all of us have one message for Donald Trump tonight. Canada will never be the 51st state. Oui, c'est ça. Partout au pays.
Across the country, Canadians are ready to fight for Canada. We're ready to defend Canada. And Canada will never become the 51st U.S. state.
Just in December, people were writing off our Liberal Party. But tonight, we all know that we can, we must, and we will defeat Pierre Poilievre and his maple syrup mega. Oui, on va gagner.
We are going to win.
The Liberal Party is the party that has always fought for Canada, and together we will win. Vive le Canada!
Long live Canada.
Merci.
Okay, that was Christinne Freeland with her more than 90 seconds. David was timing it. Comment to the party here. Next up is Karina Gould. 37 years old, remind me. 30.
She's 37. Yeah.
37 years old. House leader for the party. Obviously, an outlier here, but impressed a lot of people with the way she spoke, the debate, the things she was saying. She tried to, I think, speak more to the grassroots of the party, David, and put forward progressive agendas, whereas you could argue Mark Carney and Christinne Freeland were trying to pull a little bit in the other direction.
Yeah, she was definitely the one fishing the most in the progressive pond of Liberal voters. She's also probably, when it comes to basic communication and retail political skills, the best political athlete of the four candidates on that stage. She connects and resonates more naturally with people. She gets her point across more effectively, in a Q&A and in multiple interviews that she has done throughout the campaign. The question is profile. The question is experience on the big stage internationally, like Kearney had with the two central banks and as Freeland had with the first NAFTA negotiations. But she is definitely someone who has made a play for the younger cohort inside the Liberal Party and really tried to speak to the bread and butter kitchen table issues throughout this campaign and sort of sticking more closely to that progressive kind of bigger government legacy of the Trudeau years, perhaps more than the shift more towards the blue Liberal vibe that Mark Carney is putting on.
Yeah, and the only reason I mention her age there is because it does speak to the fact that her experience is different. Her resume is different than the two front runners.
Well, and it means I would be 15 years older than the Prime Minister, and I have a very difficult time.
I know, I'm already too close in age to the current Prime Minister. So, but Cameron, I'll bring you in here. wrong. Like some of the very things that Canadians had not been hearing from the government, Karina Gould did a good job during this week talking about them.
Absolutely. I think what she got my vote. I think what she tried to do is to incarnate some of that change and say, I get it. Canadians wanted to move on. Canadians want the party to recognize that we need to do things differently, but let's also be proud of what we've achieved. Let's not run away from our record as a progressive party that's done big things for people in this country.
Okay, let's listen in here to Karina Gould.
Wonderful day for the Liberal Party of Canada.
Today is a great day for the Liberal Party of Canada. I want to start by saying thank you to each and every one of you. You participated, you joined the party, you voted, you volunteered, you made donations, and the Liberal Party of Canada is strong because of each and every one of you. C'est quoi le Parti libéral?
What's the Liberal Party? Well, it's the members, it's the supporters across the country. It's a strong party. Our party is always there to defend Canada and to defend Canadians as well.
Our party is made of incredible Canadians who care so deeply about this country, and it is always the Liberal Party of Canada that stands up for Canada and stands up for Canadians. And this leadership campaign has shown that there are so many Canadians willing to stand strong for Canada. Et moi, je suis plein.
And I'm very inspired because of you, the members of our party. You're here to stand up for Canada.
And through it all, we have remembered who we are as Liberals. I am proud to be a Liberal in Canada. Je suis fière d'être libérale.
I'm proud to be a Liberal here in Canada.
And let's remember, we are the party of healthcare. We are the party of the Charter. We are the party of the Maple Leaf. We are the party of multiculturalism. We are the party of reconciliation. We are the party that fights climate change. And we are the party of national childcare. Et c'est grâce à vous.
And it's thanks to you, thanks to the members and Liberal supporters that always have the best ideas for Canada.
Across this country who dream big for Canada so that Liberal governments can deliver for Canadians. So tonight, whatever the result, we leave here proud Liberals, proud Canadians, and united so that we can take the fight to Pierre Poilievre, win the next election, and stand up for Canada. Merci tout le monde.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, that is Karina Gould with her 90 seconds. They're being pretty liberal with the 90 seconds, I'll just say. All right, the last person to enter the room, again, this was just done by draw, is Mark Carney, the front runner by all kinds of estimates, whether it be cabinet and caucus support, fundraising support, what the polls are telling us. So it would be very surprising if he didn't pull this off here tonight. A person, David, who, as I was doing my research, flirted with getting into politics more times than he didn't, and finally found the moment to enter, and seems to, because of what is happening in the world, be making a case to Canadians. Certainly he made it to the world.
Well, he has been offered the finance minister's job by Stephen Harper, Justin Trudeau, and Chrystia Freeland, reportedly, and said no to all of them. I think if he wins today, he's going to give that job to someone else rather than take it himself. The question for Carney is the campaign, right? He's clearly, it would seem, done enough to win this contest. But has the contest tested him and given him the calluses and the battle scars that you need for what comes next?
Probably not, because it's been so short.
Everyone was so nice. Pierre Poilievre will not be nice in the next debate he does.
Oh, All right. Hello, everyone.
Je veux vous poser quelques questions.
I'd like to ask a couple of questions.
Qui est prêt?
Who's ready?
Qui est prêt?
Who's ready
à se tenir debout
to stand up
pour le Canada?
for Canada?
Qui est prêt?
Who's
Qui est
ready?
prêt
Who's
à
ready
aider le Parti libéral
to help
à gagner
the Liberal
l'élection
Party
la plus importante
win
de
the
nos
most important election of our lives?
Il faut le faire.
We have to do this.
Christian est prêt.
Christian's ready.
Karina
Frank's
est
ready. Karina's
Tout
ready.
le monde dans la salle est prêt.
Everyone in this room's ready to do that.
C'est ça. We have to win this election. The big election. And we will stand shoulder to shoulder together to do it. Because the stakes have never been higher. You have just heard from my colleagues what we stand for as the Liberal Party. The Charter, healthcare, childcare, opportunity. We have made this the greatest country in the world. And now, our neighbors want to take us. No way. No way. Impossible. This party has more than quadrupled its membership in the past 2 months, more than 300,000 members. Old Liberals, and my definition of old has changed, but old Liberals coming back, members who've never been part of the party before, united with one purpose, which is to make Canada even greater pour tous les Canadiens et Canadiennes.
Greater for all Canadians.
Dernier mot. Whatever the result tonight, I'll be proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with my collègue candidat, working with you, with Liberal volunteers across this country in service of Canadians. Merci tout le monde. À bientôt. Vive le Canada.
Thank you, and long live Canada.
There's Mark Carney. That is the last of the 4 candidates to speak to this room. You can definitely hear that he's been doing rallies. He seems to have lost his voice a little bit, but clearly reaching out to his fellow candidates already, and also leaning hard into the idea that an election is coming. Now, some of this program we will not speak over. Obviously, we're going to get a land acknowledgement here from Claudette Commanda, but we will speak when it is appropriate.
Oui, Kakina. Bonjour tout le monde.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Canada. Hello, Liberal Party of Canada. Are we excited? Are we happy? And we should be. Kani Mitch Kijigun Kinun the Nishinakas Kitagan Zibi Donjaban. Quait Kakina Nichkiwe Dug. Mono Sir Claudette.
I'm Claudette Commanda. I'm an Algonquin woman from the Kipikan Zibi First Nation. And I'm ready to be here with you and very happy to be here this evening.
My English name is Claudette Commanda, and I am from the Kitagan Zibi Algonquin First Nation, and I'm very honored to be here with each and every one of you. I know there are many that I can't see, and you cannot see me, but that's okay. What's important is that you hear me, we hear one another, and we're here together as brothers and sisters in this beautiful land called Canada. Greetings, distinguished guests, leaders, community members, citizens of Canada, and to the candidates. Welcome to this beautiful traditional homeland of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. Welcome. Welcome. Bijajig Oma. Bienvenue ici. The land of the Anishinaabe ancestors since time immemorial, the land of our people today and tomorrow. I respect and honor the first and original ancestors of this land, the Anishinaabe ancestors whom I come from and whom I'm very proud of. And as I acknowledge my ancestors, I acknowledge the ancestors of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. And ladies and gentlemen, no matter where we come from, no matter our political stripes, no matter our title, each and every one of you, I honor and acknowledge your ancestors because we are all together, all together. But for our ancestors, we would not be here. And as we embark on a new journey starting today, with principles of yesterday, with love and kindness and respect for one another, and learning from the wisdom of past leaders, elders, and community members, this journey will be one that will be filled with love and respect and kindness. And my blessing for you indeed is one of love. May the Creator bless you. Miigwej gijimina do kichimigwej kinakego. Kichimigwej onje nichkiwe do gikwe waga shishininini wag. And may the Creator bless you with a good heart, good health, strength, and guidance. Let us show kindness and respect for one another as peers, as colleagues, and leaders. Let us embrace the spirit and intent of community because that's who you need to be and that's who we are, community, community. Let us embrace the spirit of love for one another and to one another. And that love is so much needed today because we see what's going on out there. And let no one break love. People want to be negative, let them be negative. It belongs to them. For love belongs to us, is what's important. Important. And I leave you with these closing words. Love is the strength of the land. Love is the courage of the heart. Love is the guidance of visions. And love is the future for all our children. All our children. All our children. Best of luck to all the candidates. Just know, no matter what, we will walk together, we will work together, and this country will remain the country that it is for all our children today and tomorrow. And my friends, Ayongwamazin, Nigawabmin, Gizagiyin, I love you all. Take good care. Best of luck.
Okay, that is Claudette Commanda giving land acknowledgement here. Algonquin Anishinaabe elder from Kitikintippi Anishinaabeg First Nation. She's often at these kinds of events because she is based near Ottawa. So she did that. We are now going to hear the anthem, the singing of O Canada, which, because of the time we are in, is likely to be a loud affair inside this room. And then, after O Canada, we will hear from Justin Trudeau himself. So obviously, we will not talk over this anthem. We'll let you enjoy it. You might need it yourself today. Let's listen now.
Sing along with me.
leader here from Ottawa singing "O Canada," you're going to get a strong response to that anthem anytime, but particularly right now. The next portion of this will be about Justin Trudeau and his legacy. We gave you some of our take about that. Then he will be introduced and will give a speech of his own that will be partly to rally the troops, certainly, but also partly sending a message to the nation in what is likely going to be his last speech as the Prime Minister of Canada. I don't think we're going to take this whole video because we talked a little bit already about the legacy, but Aaron, maybe I'll just get you to weigh in on what we heard there from Mark Carney in terms of his speech and whether he's hitting the right tone already.
I mean, as our partisan friends could probably concur, I think every politician who has ever run in an election campaign has said this is the most important election we've ever had. I think, though, the distinction in this case may be that it actually kind of feels that way.
Yeah.
You know, he started off by saying, "Are you ready?" I think that is ultimately the question for him. He's done very well to win this leadership. In a lot of ways, this is a long time coming, going back to 2012 when people first started, speculating about his political future. I think he has, passed a significant test to start, piling up the endorsements, potentially winning this the way we think he probably is going to. But it's really hard to know how a candidate is going to do once they get into an election campaign.
Okay, let's dip into a little bit of this video if we can, just to hear the way the Liberal Party is paying tribute to Prime Minister Trudeau.
Nolan, above all, let us seize the promise of a brand new day. Merci, mes amis. Thank you, my friends.
To Ella Grace. So let's see how she introduces her dad.
Hi, everyone. I've come here to talk to you about your Prime Minister, your leader, but to me, it's just Dad. Je crois qu'on sait tous que
I think we all know that being a Prime Minister is not the easiest job in the world. Long days of work, stress, media attention.
It's not that easy to be the kid of a Prime Minister either. I've been trying hard to live the life of a normal teenager, but I think you can imagine it's not that simple of a task. La sécurité, les règles,
security, rules, drama have all stopped me feeling free over the past few years. The number of times who spoke to me about him as if he wasn't my father. So that led me to doubt the integrity of some people.
I've had some great conversations with my dad about the difficult situations I've lived through, and he never failed to make me feel better. He listened, and more than that, I knew he heard me, he understood me, because he lived through all that. The only difference is that back then there was no social media. Imagine constantly seeing your dad or even news about him as you scroll through your feed. I gotta say, I'm looking forward to seeing more of him at home and less of him online. But I would never trade the last few years for anything. Dad, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud to have seen you fight for our country, for what you believe in, for what we in this room believe in. Fier de t'avoir vu.
Proud to have seen you fight for those in need.
I'm extremely grateful to have lived these experiences and grateful to those around me who have made it even just a little bit easier. Je suis tellement chanceuse d'avoir pu vivre
I'm so lucky to have been able to experience so much, to meet so many extraordinary people, to see so many beautiful things and
I will never
places.
forget the memories I've made, it be at Harrington Lake, on official trips, or even just at home. And I'm really looking forward to making some new memories of a different kind. My brothers and I have shared our dad with you for the past 12 years. Now we're taking him back. But before we do, I guess you can have him one last time. Please welcome your Prime Minister, my dad, Justin Trudeau.
Okay, that was Ella Grace Trudeau, very put together 16-year-old. I would not have been able to give that kind of speech at that age. And here's Justin Trudeau on what is undoubtedly an emotional moment for him. We will listen in and talk about it.
Mes amis, bonsoir tout le monde. Hello, my friends. You know, as I look out across this room, I have just one question. How's the Liberal Party doing tonight?
Ella Grace, I know that these last few years haven't been easy for Sav, Adrian, yourself. Thank you for having been so patient with me, even when I was stressed, when I was traveling too much, when I couldn't think about anything other than work. But please know that in the most difficult times, you inspired me. You gave me courage. You reminded me that I should focus on what was really important and not what was just urgent. Being Prime Minister of this country has been the honor of my life, but I'm so looking forward to redevoting myself to my most important role, that of father. I'm proud of the three of you, and I love you above all.
Now, sit down. Now, I can imagine that you're all expecting me to stand up and talk about all that we've accomplished together. And don't get me wrong, I am damn proud of what we've done over these past 10 years for the middle class and people working hard to join it. But tonight is about our future as a party, as a country. Now, I know that we as Liberals, as a government, often get criticized by our friends for not taking a victory lap after we get something big done. We do something really big, and then we move on right away to the next challenge. Because as progressives, as Liberals, we know there is always more to do. So it is important to take the time to reflect on and share the big successes. But not tonight. Not tonight, because when Liberals gather, we're always focused on just one thing: the work that still needs to be done to build a country that stays worthy of all Canadians. And simply put, that's the work of a lifetime for each and every one of us. It's very simple. Liberals are dedicated to making this country even better, not because we think it's broken, but because we have an opportunity and therefore a responsibility to ensure that Canada stays the best country on earth. Now, these past 10 years have been challenging. Crisis after crisis has been thrown at Canadians. But through every crisis, Canadians have shown who they are. We've pulled together. We've stood up for each other, and every single time we've emerged even stronger. And now, as Canadians face from our neighbor an existential challenge, an economic crisis, Canadians are showing exactly what we are made of. Canadians are showing what it is that makes us Canadians, not by defining ourselves by who we're not, but by proudly embracing who we are. We're a country that knows that standing up for everyone's fundamental rights is the only way to protect our freedom. We're a country that believes no one should be left behind and that everyone should have a real and fair shot at success. We're a country that refuses to accept the false choice between a strong economy and a healthy environment. We're a country that embraces reconciliation and Indigenous peoples as true partners because it is the only path to a shared, prosperous future.
We are a country that promotes its culture and protects its heritage. We're a country that
I really think
the French language
Freeland has the best
is heard
chance.
across the world.
If not her, I think Carney. The other two would be a complete
We're a country that
surprise.
celebrates its diversity and draws strength.
We are moments
from
away,
differences.
folks. Moments
We're
away
a country that celebrates
from
the
knowing
right of each
who
and
will
every
reign
person
Canada.
to be who they want to be, to pray as they pray, and love whom they love.
We could see Canada's first female prime minister today.
We're a country that will always
Freeland or
defend
gold?
a woman's right to choose. And we're a country that will be diplomatic when we can, but fight when we must, elbows up. But you here in this room and our fellow liberals watching across the country, you know all about fighting.
Sounds
with
like he might have
grit,
had a couple
with
drinks before
determination
this.
when the going gets tough. You remember where we were 15 years ago with just 35 seats in the House. You remember our ups and downs and all those times that people counted us out, all the times they said our party was on its last breath. Like all Canadians, it's when you try to count us out that we liberals show our true mettle.
Who will Trudeau pass the
You showed
baton
this
to?
in 2015, 2019, and again in 2021. You mobilized. You knocked on doors. You did it in the rain, in a heat wave, in the freezing cold. You did it in the middle of a pandemic, wearing a mask. You fought for your country, and you've changed it for the better. You know, a party is more than just a name, a logo, a leader. It's all about you. You who carry the hopes of Canadians day in, day out. A country is more than a flag and a territory. It's a vision which is built gradually, day after day, between friends and neighbors. And I'd like to thank all those who have been there to build this vision together. I'm thinking here about my first volunteers 18 years ago, those who have been there since the start. Rennes, Louis-Alexandre, Stavroula, and others, so many others. I'm thinking about the grocery store parking lots in Papineau, when we talk to people to rally them to our cause, to our movement.
Tonight, I'm also thinking of two friends in particular who've been there with me and for me every step of the way for close to 20 years. The extraordinary Adam Scotty and the unstoppable Katie Telford. Now, as I look at all of you in this room, no speech could be enough to thank you all as much as I'd like to, as much as you should be. I can't even offer you a well-deserved break because, once again, we need you. Your country needs you maybe more than ever. And I have no doubt that you will answer the call because you've done it before. Liberals will meet this moment. And make no mistake, this is a nation-defining moment. Democracy is not a given. Freedom is not a given. Even Canada is not a given. None of those happen by accident. None of them will continue without effort. It takes courage. It takes sacrifice. It takes hope and hard work. "60 years ago, standing atop Parliament Hill, Prime Minister Lester B. Pearson first raised our beautiful maple leaf into the Canadian sky. It was much debated at the time, but Pearson knew well what we all know now, that our flag would serve as a unifying symbol that would define the next chapters in our national story. 60 years later, there are still so many more chapters to write. And I can tell you, the world is looking to see what Canadians will do. So let us not dwell on all the great things we've achieved over the past 10 years. Let us aspire instead to achieve even more over the next 10 years and the decades to come. Let us remain steadfast, defiant, and united. And let us not just think about our party, let us prove our love of country. As your leader, as your Prime Minister, I have done my level best each and every single day to help build a country that stays worthy of all Canadians. I've done it for Xavier, for Ella Grace and Hadrian. And I've done it for your kids too. I've done it with you. And although you'll always find me alongside you, cheering along, their future and your future is now in your hands. Merci, mes amis. Merci pour tout.
Maybe the last speech that Justin Trudeau gives as Prime Minister of Canada after more than 9 years in the job. Followed by another Prime Minister, former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien. We'll talk more about Trudeau's speech in just a moment. We'll listen to Jean Chrétien. Here also to rally the troops.
Monsieur le Premier ministre Trudeau,
Prime Minister Trudeau,
candidat et candidate,
candidates,
Monsieur le Président du parti,
President of the party,
ministres et députés,
ministers and MPs,
chers compatriotes, bonsoir.
good evening.
C'est une occasion exceptionnelle
This is
d'être
an
avec vous
exceptional
ce soir.
opportunity for me to be here this evening.
Il s'agit de ma 9e
This is
convention
my
du Parti
ninth
libéral à laquelle
ninth
je
liberal
participe.
convention that I participated in.
Et c'est la 7e fois
And it's the 7th time
que je m'avance au podium.
that I've spoken at the podium.
Je n'aurais jamais cru
I
que
would
je
have never
pourrais le
thought
faire
that I could
à
do it
l'âge de 91 ans.
at 91.
Et toujours prêt à me battre.
I'm still ready to fight. I have fight in me yet.
It's great to see so many young people in the room today. It reminds me of my first Liberal convention when I was the president of the Young Liberals at Laval University. In 1958, when Lester Pearson was elected Liberal leader. In 1958, not many of you were born. And he then became a very good prime minister. I have kept coming to Liberal Convention for 68 years. I have kept coming back to Liberal Convention because of what the Liberal Party stands for. I have kept coming back because of what the Liberal Party has delivered to make the lives of Canadians better. And I am here today because it is the Liberal Party that can best deliver the better lives for Canadians in the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. It is the Liberal Party that has given Canadians the Canadian Pension Plan and Medicare, the Charter of Rights and Freedom, the 2 official languages that put the Indigenous rights into the Canadian Constitution, brought in tough gun control laws, affirmative action. We have always supported women's right to choose. We are the party who led the way to permit the second party in the country in the world to permit same-sex marriage. The party is the party of diversity, equality, tolerance, openness, and inclusiveness. We liberals call it the very essence of Canada. And it is the Liberal Party that gave us the red maple leaf flag 60 years ago, which flew so proudly in homes across the country on the 14th of February to demonstrate our patriotism and love for Canada. I want to say a special thank you to former Prime Ministers Joe Clark, Harper, Martin, Campbell for coming together with me to rally Canadians across the land.
Moments away,
show
folks.
the Canadian flag with pride, with a lot of pride.
Who will it be? Freeland or Carney?
But tonight, I want to pay tribute.
Other two don't stand a
Justin
chance.
Trudeau. I want to pay tribute to him for taking the Liberal Party from third
Who do you
place
endorse?
to government.
Who does Trudeau endorse?
And three successive election victories. I want to pay tribute to what he and his team have accomplished. Canadian Child Benefit to reduce the poverty for the children in Canada. The $10 child care that opened the labor market to so many women. For the dental plan for low-income Canadians. For all the work they've done on the environment. Ladies and gentlemen, these are liberal policies. And let's talk about the economic reality of the moment now. Because Canada has done well. This, I'm telling you, as I've said so many times, Canada is not broken. Despite the attacks by the critics, Canada has the lowest deficit per capita in the G7. More than 5 times lower than in the United States. For the lowest debt per capita in the G7. And in fact, the payment on the interest of the debt today is only 11% for each dollar of tax we pay, and compared to what we got when we formed the government in 1993, we were obliged to pay 35 cents in every tax dollar. That was a little problem the Tories left to me. And we balanced the books. We took that mess from the Tories and we balanced the books. And we had 10 years of surplus. And the Tories came back to power and we went back in debt. Now inflation is 1.9% in Canada. It's 3.2% and increasing south of the border. You know, I spend my life talking about job creation. Now the problem, we're looking for manpower. It's a difficult problem, but it's better than the reverse. You know, I want to pay tribute to the government, to Mr. Trudeau, and to all the provincial governments for the fact that they have been with the municipalities put together the best program on the pandemic that we face, than better than any other country in the world. Our death rate was less than half of the United States. Today, as a party, we're choosing a new leader. A leader who will assume the mantle of Laurier and King, Saint Laurent and Pearson, Trudeau's father, Trudeau the son, who has with him a very beautiful daughter. You know, I'm old enough to say that. And myself. And I want, that is very important. I want to take this moment to say how impressed I am by the quality of the candidates whose names are on the ballot tonight. It makes me very, very proud to be a Liberal. Et maintenant, parlons.
Guys, I think this is going to be the last person who speaks before the results. And he's been speaking for like 10 minutes. So I expect the results in the next minute or so.
Friendship with the Americans, built over decades, which is falling apart before our eyes and is becoming something which is difficult to name. Mutual respect, trust, reciprocal cooperation, friendship, which have long characterized our relationship, are now giving way to wariness and more open hostility from the Trump administration towards our country. This is something we've never seen, but this is something that Canadians don't understand, and I think the majority of Americans don't understand it either, without mentioning the rest of the planet. Why?
44,000 votes or voters.
Why? Historians,
and
journalists,
16,000 points needed.
experts,
Just over
and
60,000 points needed.
Politics are trying to make
For the
sense
winner tonight
of something that doesn't make sense.
to become
Well,
Canada's next
in Canada,
Prime
our elbows are
Minister.
up. We're working together.
Time will
to
tell.
unite to deal with this threat, the threat to our economy and our sovereignty. In other words, our very existence as a country. At the beginning of the week, tariffs became a reality.
Let's go,
Chrétien,
get off the stage.
If you measure it in
91.
financial terms alone. But for Canadians,
Go sit down, buddy.
it's more than that. It's more than money that's at stake here. We love our country and our independence. We love
Somebody get
who
the
we
fiddle
are
out.
because we're unique in the world.
And I want to pay tribute to the Trudeau government and all the premier for the way they have led Canada in the last few weeks in confronting the menace imposed on us.
Let's go. I've been waiting for the past 2 hours.
With
go.
tariff completely unjustified. Governments have absolutely right in retaliating as they have, and I congratulate all of them.
I think he knows this is his
If
last big
it
speech.
is necessary.
So he's going to
The
try and milk it
governments
for every drop
altogether
that's
can
left.
consider going further. Anything the Americans where it really hurts by imposing an export tax on oil, gas, potash, steel, aluminum, and electricity. And we'll use that money to build infrastructure that are needed in Canada. For example, to build a pipeline for natural gas from Alberta to Quebec. Alberta, the family of my mother, and Quebec of my father. So, you know, I think that if we do that, that will keep the steel workers working in Canada for a long time. And I could go on, but I'm limited in time. So, the world
wrap it
has
up,
lived
old
for
man.
80 years with a rule-based order that has brought us peace and prosperity. It has enabled the United States to be the strongest, the most powerful country in the world. It has allowed all of us to sleep well every night. And now, Donald Trump has decided to throw it all out the window. We are going to be living very difficult time, but I'm very confident that the next Prime Minister will work with the premiers, the leaders of all the political parties in the House of Commons, and allies around the world to stand together to meet the challenges that Mr. Trump is creating for the whole world.
Who's got a book on that podium?
And
let's go, Jean.
Speaking of the president,
sit down
it is
already.
time for a little history lesson for him. Probably does not realize that in 1776, Benjamin Franklin spent a year in Montreal trying to convince the people to join the American Revolution. And he was told by the Francophone, "Non, merci." And they were right. Look what happened to the French language in Louisiana. The Loyalists left the USA to come back to Upper Canada and the Atlantic. And the Francophone and Lower Canada, together they built our independent country. During the War of 1812, American troops came to what is known Canada on a mission of conquest. They were defeated by Colonel de Salaberry in what is now Quebec, and by leaders like the great indigenous chief Tecumseh in what is now Ontario. And I don't know, apparently some burned the White House at that time. But I'm too old to do it. No, it's a joke. But, ladies and gentlemen, we have been friend and good neighbor with our southern neighbors. But we must stand up for ourselves. Historically, despite our friendship, we have had problems, but we always found a way to solve them. We have worked with and collaborated with the United States in the past, and I'm telling you, we will do so in the future. We are good neighbors and friends, We are good neighbors and friends, but we are proud and independent country. But sometimes one must stand up for Canada. We must always be vigilant. And I did so as minister and as prime minister. Way back in 1968, when the Americans sent a ship, the Manhattan, with no Canadian flag through our Northern Passage, they wanted to prove that the passage was international water. As Minister of Northern Affairs, I flew to Pond Inlet at the northern extremity of Baffinland to confront them. I was on the Louis Saint-Laurent icebreaker. I called the captain. I said, I will be there in an hour. And it's better to have the Canadian flag at the mast. I took... When I arrived, there was a Canadian flag at the mast. And I had a big smile. You know, we had other problems of the same nature. You remember Newfoundland, the so-called fish war, when we arrested the Este, when my friend Tobin made a great show at the UN with the illegal nets, and we were successful. They changed the international laws after that because there was a problem that needed to be fixed. And I'm quite proud of it, and it was quite a time. Yeah. I was traveling in the West. I came back. It was Holy Week. So it was a Thursday, Holy Week. So my wife said, we'll have a good rest for the weekend. And I said, perhaps not, because I'm declaring war to Spain. She did not sleep. But, you know, we had another problem on the West Coast. You know, we have Vancouver Island, the mainland, and Canadian waters. And the fishermen from Oregon and Washington State were going to Alaska, but they were not respecting our water. So we threatened them to block the passage on Canadian water and force them to go in the high seas. It was a very difficult problem. The senator of Alaska said it was almost a question of war. So I discussed that, and I talked with my friend Bill Clinton, and he said, it's out of Canada, there's not much I can do. I said, if you cannot do something, I will do something. And they were forced to respect our laws. Some were taken to courts, and after that, the problem was solved because we stood for us strongly. But for 8 years, I was a colleague of Bill Clinton, and he would always say that Canada was his best ally, and that I was a very good friend, and we still are very good friends. But we worked together, and we found solutions together. And it's just what happened in the future, too. We always been good neighbors with anybody. So I was proud, too, when I was prime minister, and I had to say no to the participation in the American invasion of Iraq. That decision told the United States and the world that Canada is a proud, independent country. Of course, the business community was very nervous. They were afraid of retaliation. So I told them, okay, give me the list of all the goods and all the services that the Americans are buying from us because they like us. I've not received the list yet. So, we will work in collaboration with them. But, they have to understand, and everybody understand, that we are a very proud country. And for me, I can tell you that sometimes I can say this from one old guy to another old guy. Stop this nonsense. Canada will never join the United States. I can tell you that my parents were not millionaires from New York. They were workers from Shawinigan. But my mother taught us good manners. She would have been ashamed of me if I had treated anyone the way that the president treated my prime minister and the president in Ukraine in the last few weeks. The reason we don't want to become American is because our values as Canadians. We are proud Canadians, and yes, we owe a debt of recognition to Mr. Trump. He has united us as never before. So I want to say thank you to him. And I think I will propose him for the order of Canada. I'm just kidding. Mesdames et messieurs, quand j'étais Premier ministre et que j'allais partout dans le monde,
I would travel across the
aux
world.
Nations Unies,
I went to the UN,
au G7,
to the
à
G7,
l'OTAN,
to NATO,
au Commonwealth,
to the Commonwealth,
à la francophonie,
to the Francophonie,
et à toutes les autres rencontres
and to all
internationales
sorts of
sur
international
les 5 continents.
meetings on the 5 continents.
Quand je revenais au Canada,
When I came back to Canada,
je me disais que le
each
travail
time
de
I
Premier
would
ministre
say
du Canada est
that
peut-être le plus
the
facile
job
de
of being
la
Prime
plupart
Minister is
We've been
perhaps
live
the
for 2
easiest
hours
of
straight.
Le Canada
any
Please
country
hit
in
the
the
like and
world.
subscribe button.
Canada is
More
the
great
country that
stuff
works
like
the best,
this.
I think. Much
Music,
better than any other
more.
country in the world.
Check out the channel.
And it's why there are
Deep Stacks here.
millions and millions of human beings from all over the world who would like to come and become Canadian citizens. There was a survey not long ago. They were asking the people, where will you want to go if you had to start again your life? And Canada was number 1.
That brain is sharper than most 20-year-olds in Canada and USA right now.
Is because Canada is the land of freedom.
This guy's 91. Look how
Canada
sharp.
is the land of opportunity, the land of generosity,
Not
the land
complaining
of
about
tolerance,
standing.
the land of stability, the land of rule of law.
Not stumbling on words. And English is his second language, I believe. That's really
It is
good
our
for
land
91.
that is the envy of the world. Canada will continue to rise through north strong and free. Nobody will starve us into submission because Canada is and will remain the best country in the world. Vive le Canada!
Let's go. Get down, old man.
Okay. And there
Take a
is
break.
91-year-old Jean Chrétien, still full of energy.
Wow, he
delivering
hopped
a
up
speech
there pretty
to rally
good.
the Liberal Party and the country.
Wow, he didn't even use the
telling Donald
step.
Trump directly to stop this nonsense.
Crazy.
He was also out, of course, to pay tribute to Prime Minister Trudeau and talk about the way he had defended the nation against Donald Trump, and also throughout COVID, he was thanking Trudeau for the premiers and the premiers for the way they handled things through the pandemic. This is the president of the Liberal Party who's going to come out and give a bit of a speech now before announcing the winner, the winner of this race. But I want to talk a little bit more about Justin Trudeau's speech, and we'll of course not miss the moment when the winner is announced. David, what did you make of what Justin Trudeau had to say? He was emotional for sure, following that quite incredible speech by his 16-year-old daughter, Ella Grace. What did you make of what he had to say?
Well, I think Mark Carney and Christian Freeland and everyone else is quite lucky that Ella Grace
Hit the like and subscribe button. Steve Stacks here. Live for over 2 hours. Do me a solid, hit the like and subscribe button. All you new fans out there, check out the music. 40 plus multi-genre tracks from EDM, DMV, rap music. Stacks got it all. This track called Foreigner. I made it last year. Hope you're enjoying it. Hit the like and subscribe button. You want to do me a big solid. And check out the merch and the new book I just dropped this month or in February. Called Steve Stacks, Tips and Tricks Guidebook for Indie Musicians and Producers. Volume 2. Coming at you. Let's go. Back to the show.
Context we're in today is different, and that will define the path forward for the next few weeks.
This is Sachin Merritt, the president of the Liberal Party now. He is the one going to give the name of the leader. We'll miss that moment either. Aaron, I did want to bring you in because there is, I don't doubt the truth behind what everyone is saying tonight, but there is also an attempt to wrap the Liberal Party in the Canadian flag, to use the moment and the Liberal Party colors and the flag itself to try and help them politically in this moment.
Yeah, I mean, understandably. I mean, I think if you go back 2 months, or even to the day, I guess it has been 2 months now that he resigned, I don't know that I would have expected Justin Trudeau to speak at this convention, given where his standing was. And you contrast that with his father, when his father resigned, a whole night of the Liberal convention was given over to a tribute to Pierre Trudeau. There were singers, and it was a whole thing. And I think the fact that he was here today is an indication of where the mood has shifted. And I think
Let's go!
To your point about the patriotism and how that has kind of taken over everything. And you heard, I was kind of waiting to see whether
Get to the results.
referenced his father, and instead he referenced Lester B. Pearson.
Been at this
as he
2
pointed out,
hours.
was a Liberal government initiative at the time and was controversial. And I think, that was both a play to sort of the moment, the patriotism, but also, as he said, it was controversial at the time and it has grown well. I think that is a bit of projection by the Prime Minister in terms of thinking about maybe how he's going to look 50 years from now.
Okay, let's, I just want to keep an ear here to Sajid Mehra, because it would be a pity to be here for hours and then miss the actual winner of the race. We do know that more than 150,000 people managed to vote. Liberal Party supporters are 400,000.
Got the ladies in the parking lot
Updated
touching the
information
toe.
from the Party campaign saying that as of this morning, the campaign has raised more than $5 million, which isn't anywhere near what the Conservative Party has, but is a whole lot of money in a short period of time for this party, because they had not been doing well in terms of fundraising. So that is probably good news to the Liberal Party, regardless of who wins. Let's listen a little bit to the president, Sajid Mehra.
Many of them are with us tonight. Some of you, and I met a few of you for the very first time. Et le momentum positif n'arrête pas ici. And the positive momentum doesn't stop here. We just recently announced our best
Gravy train doesn't stop here.
Grassroots fundraising in the history of the party. And we still have another 21 days to go.
Oh boy.
My friends, together we are ready for the year ahead. But we need each and every one of you. 2025, as we all know, is an election year.
Keep us
And we
waiting
all need
hours.
to be ready. We need to knock on doors, make those calls, and chip in where we can, because only together will we win the fight for a strong Canada. Who's with me?
Keep it moving along. Get to the result.
Now, who's ready? Now it's the moment to announce our new leader. Maintenant, c'est le moment d'annoncer notre
More
nouveau
than
chef,
just a leader.
notre nouvelle chef.
This is for
You
Prime
hand
Minister
me
right
the
now. What the
results.
fuck is this
I'm
guy
happy to
saying?
invite on stage Beatrice Keller-Raffoul, who has been serving as the Chief Electoral Officer for the vote and protecting the integrity of the process. Pour me remettre les résultats, j'ai le plaisir d'inviter sur le
Now have the pleasure to invite Beatrice Keller-Raffoul, who has been acting as Chief Electoral Officer for the vote and has worked to protect the integrity of the process. Beatrice, over to you.
Wow, you see those numbers. -32 in Yellowknife. Northwest Territories.
A reminder that the winner must receive more than 50% of the points allocated in a ballot to win. The following are the results of the first ballot with 151,899 votes cast. In fourth place, Frank Baylis with 4,038 votes, resulting in 1,014 allocated points, representing 3% of the vote.
His nerves are now calm. The other three, sweaty palms.
In third place, Karina Gould with 4,000.
Exactly as I
785
suspected.
votes, resulting
Exactly
in
as I suspected.
1,100 allocated points, representing 3.2% of the vote.
It's gonna come down to a nail biter here.
In second place, Chrystia Freeland
Oh.
with 11,134 votes,
Oh.
resulting in 2,729 allocated points, representing 8% of the vote. In first place, The next Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, with 131,674 votes, resulting in 29,457 allocated points, representing 85.9% of the vote.
Okay, the Liberals will be out very soon. Very soon.
All right, and there you have it. It took one ballot and a landslide victory. Mark Carney is the next Liberal Party leader, the next Prime Minister of Canada, and for now, the Prime Minister designate with an
Canada will wait
win at 85%.
another 4 years or 2 years to see if there will be a female Prime Minister.
Beyond decisive, let's put it that way. There he is with his wife, Diana.
We just denied Christinne Freeland one of the biggest historic days for a female in position in power in Canada.
Held elected office. He has never
Denied.
been elected. He is untested politically, with the exception of these past 2 months. But he has sold his vision to the Liberal Party of Canada, and they are
There it is, folks.
selling. David Cochrane.
Mark Carney, your next Prime Minister.
I mean, the expectation was first ballot victory for Mark Carney. But people were talking, is he going to get 58? Is he going to get 65%? 80, 70, everything right to go away. He wants to get 85.9%. And this is Freeland, who is the deputy prime minister.
Well, we all know Trudeau probably voted for him over Freeland.
It just shows you how decisive and how lopsided this whole thing was, really from the beginning. It had seemed inevitable.
It's true. Canadians wanted somebody new, some new face.
The results that were seen today show that.
So Freeland didn't stand a
This
chance.
really limits the chances of him ever becoming the
Oh
Prime
my!
Minister of Canada. But within days, he will be the next Prime Minister of this country.
He's clearly going to speak tonight, right? He's speaking right now.
Also a bigger win than Pierre Poilievre in his leadership race, which was also viewed as a massive, decisive victory.
Here we go.
This is one of Mark Carney's children who's going to introduce him here. And we won't want to miss, of course, the first speech that Mark
Good
Carney will
evening.
give as Liberal leader of
Bonsoir.
Canada.
I'm going to try and deliver this speech with as much grace and poise as Ella Grace. I too am introducing my father tonight because I want Canadians to understand what kind of a man he is. And who is better qualified to speak on his character than his daughter? My father is, to his core, a man of commitment. I don't just mean that in a general sense. He is unflinchingly dedicated to what matters, focused and principled, funny and kind. Canadians care about actions, and my father is a man of action. A man who has traveled the length of Canada to hear what Canadians want from their leaders, what they want for their future. He's up early to read his papers and stays up late preparing for the next day. He has taught me the importance of always putting in the work. But you can work hard all you want. If you don't have a solid foundation, there's nothing to build on. And that's what I really want to share with you tonight. The foundation that makes my father who he is. He is unwaveringly supportive of the things he cares about. Every year for our birthdays, he burned us CDs, and somehow they were good. Sometimes now, when we don't know what to get him, we make him a playlist. He cheered me on in the freezing cold at my cross-country races. He sat for hours to help me with my math homework, persevering until I understood. I can tell you that I appreciate this more in hindsight than I did at the time. In all seriousness, my dad invests in what matters. He expects nothing to come without hard work, and he is always ready to work hard. The bottom line is, however hard things may seem, he shows up and never lets you down. He has and always will show up for you, for Canadians, and for Canada, because he cares about this great country. Now, my father, your new Liberal leader, and the 24th Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney. Merci.
Okay, and that is Cleo Carney, one of Mark Carney's 4 children, introducing him, trying to connect him with Canadians and give Canadians a bit of an idea of who her dad is, because he is not known to many. But look at those numbers, 85.9% vote for Mark Carney.
Just skip a generation. Alors, bonsoir tout le monde. Wow. This room is strong. This room is Canada strong. Thank you, Cleo. Thank you, Cleo. And to my wife, Diana, our children, Cleo, Tess, Amelia, and Sasha. Without your support, I wouldn't be standing here. And like the Prime Minister, without your examples, I wouldn't have a purpose. And without your love, I wouldn't have the strength that I need for what lies ahead. Thank you. Monsieur Chrétien,
you still know how to energize the Liberal Party supporters like no one else can do it. You took courageous and historic decisions. You showed our allies that Canada will always stand up for what is just and fair. You're a source of inspiration for all Canadians across the land.
May I say that you inspired my family to become Liberals, including my father to run as a Liberal candidate in Alberta in the 1980s. Some elections are tougher than others. And you inspired me. You inspired me over the years. And now to have an opportunity to continue your tradition of fiscal responsibility, social justice, and international leadership. Prime Minister Trudeau, my time doesn't permit me to recognize all your accomplishments, so I'll speak at a higher level. You have combined strength and compassion every day as a fighter for Canada. You have led us through some of the hardest challenges that this nation has ever faced. Et en même temps, vous avez transformé
You have transformed Canada. You've transformed it. You've lifted hundreds of thousands of kids out of poverty by moving reconciliation forward and by defending freedom and democracy here and across the world. Prime Minister, I think I am speaking for everyone here when I thank you for your hard work. As Ella Grace said, your hard work, for your leadership, and for your service to our great country. I'd also like to thank you, Liberals.
Hey guys, I just want to
for
remind
having
you, we're
awarded
going to be
me
signing off in like 5
the
minutes.
greatest
If
honor
you enjoyed
possible,
it, hit the like and subscribe button.
which
Got
is
more good
to
stuff for
serve
you
as your
every
new
day,
leader.
third day.
Thank you.
Let's go. Dax, bring you the goods.
I'd like to thank the tens of thousands of volunteers across the country who have devoted themselves to rebuilding our country and to giving back hope to our country.
I pledge to you and to all Canadians that I will follow their example. I will work day and night with one purpose, which is to build a stronger Canada for everyone. But I will need help. I will need a lot of help. And so I'd like to thank Christiane, Frank, and Karina for your energy and ideas and leadership that you have brought to this campaign. And I would like also to thank those ministers who remained in their posts to serve Canada directly during this time of great peril. And to the incredible group of Liberal MPs that we have. You are the voices for your communities, and you are the conscience of our party. Thank you for your service. Now, to give a sense of that service, I'm going to quote from a message that I and Christiane and Karina and Frank, the four of us, received from someone called Bob Zettel. Now, Bob, full disclosure, I know the leader of the opposition's into full disclosure, so I'm going to full disclosure. Full disclosure, just want to get this on the table. Bob goes to my church. Actually, I go to Bob's church because he goes there a lot more frequently than I do. Anyways, point is, Bob wrote to the four candidates, and he said, I quote, "Right now, everyone sees the main threat as the Trump tariffs. But the far greater challenge will be, as it always has been, to foster unity and a sense of the common good. There are those who will seek power by dividing us." We'll get to that later on. And we being the people of Canada, we need you, my fellow candidates, myself, to continue in positions of leadership to promote a united Canada, a commitment to common good and the respect and the rule of law throughout the world. See, I quote Bob because right now all Canadians are being asked to serve in their own ways. We're all being called to stand up for each other and for the Canadian way of life. So let me ask you, who's ready? Who's ready to stand up for Canada with me? 100%. Yes. Yes. Yes, Canada. Yes, Canada. The Liberal Party is united and strong and ready to fight to build an even better country. Now, I feel like everything in my life has helped prepare me for this moment. 2 months ago, I put up my hand to run for leader because I felt we needed big changes, but big changes guided by strong Canadian values. The values I learned at the dinner table from my parents, Bob and Verley, and my 3 siblings, Brenda, Sean, and Brian. Values that I learned at the hockey rinks of Edmonton from my coaches.
All right,
such as
guys.
Stormin, Norman.
Signing
Lee.
off.
He exists.
Zach's out.
We didn't
Good
call
one.
him that to his face, by the way.
New
but that
PM
was
in
his-
Canada.
My parents were teachers, and they stressed the importance of